The Mason Mount saga, is what I'm going to call it, is finally complete, and Manchester United have their guy, and Chelsea no longer have their guy. How is this going to play out in this Premier League season, and why is it so important in a time when many Premier League managers are changing the shape and the movement in their midfield? Mason Mount could be key to the future of what happens in this league, considering everything else that's going on right now. Welcome back to the Laurence McKenna channel. Don't subscribe if you haven't already. If you like it at the end of the video, you can do it then, as you already know. This is Mason Mount. The deal, my friends, is done. He's gone from Chelsea to Manchester United, and there are many reasons why. And a huge amount of this is all about, let me just go up to I'm going to set this as presenting, team building. Should have been in white, did it in black instead. Quite like the look of it anyway. Team building is key here for what Manchester United are doing. For years and years, they did not team build. And for a little while, people thought that the Mason Mount deal kind of stunk of the similar thought process that Manchester United had in the past. Manchester United in previous years had signed players to stop other teams getting them, a la the Alexis Sanchez type of signing. And other teams have done similar. Arguably, Chelsea have also done the same, probably leading them to this type of scenario. But this, my friends, is a transfer with history. First of all, he played at Vitesse Arnhem. Now, this isn't necessarily my insight here. Statman Dave, I'll leave the link to his video in the video. I'll leave the link in the description below to his video. But he did tell me this, basically. Mason Mount played at Vitesse, I knew that. But afterwards, Erik ten Hag was looking to sign little Mason. And it's because of the time he had in that league where he did do really well and kind of played his way into the top tier at Chelsea, which is what they thought he was going to do. Now, obviously, he's one of those Cobham graduates. He's one of those people that Chelsea love because, as we've already heard, he's a Chelsea man. But how much can a Chelsea man stick around when the shape and the image of his club is changing so much? Chelsea have lost what I would call an exceptional player in some aspects and very good in other aspects. And I'm sure there are parts of his game that people can improve. I'm sure that obviously, when you lose a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a partner and you want to move on from them, then of course you speak them down. But I don't see why some Chelsea fans are celebrating. I do see why some Chelsea fans are celebrating because they don't necessarily understand the construction of a team. But at the same time, if Poch has come in and Poch has said, hey, this guy can move on, and Chelsea are looking to move this guy on in the first place, he doesn't want to be there, and it seems like an unsalvageable situation, all these kind of things, why keep the guy? Get a good deal for him, do it before his deal runs out. It's just a shame it had to happen. Chelsea have sort of become a bit of a shadow of what they used to be. And I'm sure that that is not just down to the new ownership. I'm sure it's down to legacy issues they've also had. But Mason Mount wanted out for a reason. He wanted out because they offered him a 7-year deal on wages that he didn't really want to get in the first place. He wanted a higher amount of wages, and that was why he looked at other clubs. Liverpool weren't able to offer him that level of wages. He wanted equivalent of very senior level wages, which arguably at 24 with these numbers, he could warrant. But there are only a couple of clubs who are willing to offer Mason Mount this level. Manchester United was one of them. And also, there are times where there's an opportunity here you have to strike. And with Manchester United's team building, they're getting a guy with a heat map, which arguably they've already filled a lot of these positions, right? If you just look at the heat map. But that's why we go back to this. Team building under Erik ten Hag. And Erik ten Hag is a key team builder. Of course, I flagged Statman Dave's video. You can go and take a look at that afterwards. I have linked it in the description below. This is a guy who's capable of a double-double, as we say. No, that's not double cream, double milk. It's 10 and 10 minimum in a season. And he's probably capable of even more than that. I think there was a previous Chelsea season where he got 10 and 12 or 10 and 11, something like that. This guy is capable of doing special things for a team and giving you an adaptable, but I also think middling baseline, which basically what I mean by that is he brings up the average of what the team is capable of, but doesn't necessarily make them so much better in every game. He's basically saying, hey, I can get us up to this level and then we can build from that. And I think that's really key for Manchester United. They need people who don't let the standards go below a certain level. And we're about to talk about why in this video. Mason Mount is going to be a huge part of that. Let me talk to you about some of the attributes that Mason Mount brings. Now, arguably Mason Mount is a very good attacking level player. He's played all across this level and this part of the field for Chelsea. He could play there for England as well, and he's capable of playing it in the Premier League. Buying a capable player in the Premier League is key to Manchester United. Someone who doesn't need to be bedding in terms of the pace and these kind of things. Arguably last year, because of a couple of I don't want to say there were players bedding in because Casemiro bedded in so quickly, Varane bedded in very quickly, Antony had a bit of a transitional period, but they're going to be basically bedding in other players from here. They're going to be bedding in a striker. They're probably going to be bedding in another player in midfield, and they're probably going to be bedding in a new goalkeeper and probably someone else into their back line. So they need people who can hit the ground running. Mason Mount is one of those, and someone who's incredibly adaptable, incredibly intelligent, but also very good defensively. He doesn't only offer something going forward. Arguably last season, there were a lot of people who picked on aspects of Manchester United's tactical play where they went, I'm not really sure whether Antony tracked back in this scenario. He's to blame for this. Or this guy was the issue in this particular scenario. I'm just going to change one thing in here because it's kind of bugging me. I'm just going to show position names. Yeah. It bugs me when the numbers don't work. Anyway, it bugs you too. It bugs you too. It did. So anyway, they don't currently have like a ready-made, out-the-box solution. You could have a ready-made solution in Marcus Rashford. But he's not, he's better there, isn't he? He's better there. He's better there? He's better there, right? Or at least that's what I'm reading at the moment. I'm not saying therefore he couldn't play there. But Martial, do you know what I mean? Mason Mount coming into this side opens up a number of possibilities. To put a striker ahead of him would open up so many more of those possibilities. I don't want to put down the strikers they currently have because I feel they'll probably go somewhere else and do a decent job. But Manchester United, if they want to compete for the Premier League, they want to compete in the Champions League consistently, let's just face it, guys, they need to do something about some of these positions. Anyway, let's talk about what Mount brings to this side. As a central midfielder, he could play as the right side or the left side. I'm just going to lay these down as bases of these 2 8s. He could play as one of the 3 8s, which Bruno currently kind of plays as, or he plays a little bit more attacking. And he'll play in front of a Casemiro type. That's not to say that he won't do some defensive work. Mason Mount is a very smart guy who's able to drop back if he plays on the right, allowing Dalot to go forward. He's not going to drop back so deep that, he's a centre-back, but he's going to drop back and he's going to cover in shadow there because that's what managers like in the modern era. That's what someone like Erik ten Hag will like. Adaptability, not only in terms of, you're going to start in this formation and this is where you'll be, but in-game management. He's very good at reading the opposition's midfield. He's very good at looking at what they're trying to achieve and going, yeah, that's what I'm going to do to counter that. There are plenty of things that happen that are NFL and NBA style in the Premier League. And what I mean by that is those kind of leagues do plays. They do traps. They do things that try and catch the other team out, and they want the other team to have a lapse in judgment, have a lapse moment. And you need players that are able to read the game and adapt on the fly. Mason Mount is one of those people. Remember when Manchester United got badly beat last season by Liverpool? That was because a lot of the traps that Liverpool were setting and a lot of the issues that Liverpool had identified felt unsolvable on that day to Manchester United. And that's the frustration for them. You don't want to consistently have an unsolvable issue for Manchester United. Mason Mount is one of those guys. There are other people who are also problem solvers. Varane, Casemiro, arguably Bruno is, but there are days where you feel like his head goes a little bit and you wonder if because he knows that other people aren't problem solving, he doesn't problem solve. Luke Shaw, also a bit of a problem solver. I like that. I love Luke Shaw as a player. Martinez tries hard. He's extremely intelligent, good at distribution, good at bringing the ball forward. I don't know why I'm talking about him, but yeah, it's not that I don't like him. Anyway, Mason Mount. I'll show you this again. That's not what I'm showing you, is it? That's not what I'm showing you, baby. It's not what I'm showing you. I'm just going to move back up. That's not what I'm showing you. That is a heat map which shows A, he takes a lot of the set pieces, good addition, but also you would think that Mason Mount would come in and play there, right? Possibly even cover there if you wanted him to, because he's done that for Chelsea. But that's what's interesting about this. If you were to put Mason Mount, say, there, and then you were to put Rashford there, and then you were to drop someone else in there, it could be an Eriksen, someone like that, I don't mind that. It might be another midfield signing for Manchester United, which I don't mind. That's that space sort of covered, right? I remember this beautiful guy. I was sitting next to Rory on a Champions League stream, and Mason Mount just dropped the shoulder, turned, and the ball just goes past him. I think he struck it so perfectly that it just flew top corner. We went wild in that moment, but it was a great moment. He's capable of doing that there, but he's also weirdly capable of doing that there as well. Or there. No, stop grabbing Rashford, you idiot. Or there. He's not necessarily a second striker, but he could be a 10. If you want to drop another midfielder in there and play a narrow diamond, that's possible. If you also want to do this, so you basically go Casemiro and Bruno at the centre of midfield, you need to bring someone else in. The names don't work here, but you get my point. You could do that, where you basically have your two forwards going a little bit wider and then people coming through the middle and getting on the end of things. Mason Mount makes you capable of that. Now, I've spoken a lot about this season. The midfield shapes are changing for Premier League managers and Premier League players. Control these areas, and you probably, like in previous years, where if you controlled these areas, like a Makaleli type or those kind of things, and you can control a game, because you can win the ball back quickly. You can also get into a position where you basically are constantly keeping the opposition under pressure. You're also sitting on their Makaleli type role, which is really key as well. If you put Mount on their deepest lying playmaker or their deep lying guy, or you put him in that area, you give them a problem. You give the opposition something of a headache to think about. And again, problem solver, someone who can think on the fly. Do you not want these things? Of course you want these things. But also, Mason Mount just fits perfectly into this. Very often, I think it's more like a 6 actually, so you probably have someone coming down the outside. But what you have is what Erik ten Hag did at Ajax was basically to have he basically train his players at training and say, right, so say the wing back overlaps there, we can only ever have so many people, draw a line along this green line here, we can only ever have so many people in this row here. So if the wing back overlaps there, you drop, so the striker might go there, but you drop to there. And then he comes over here. What it basically did was it meant that there were kind of set plays within the team, but it also meant that there was always numerical supremacy over the opposition in all of these positions. Now, I'm not purporting to be some sort of tactical genius. That's Statman Dave, that's Tifo, that is, all the brilliant writers out there. But what I can spot is that, and just from my eye test, which is probably a bad eye test, is that I know that Mason Mount can excel in this position and this position. So mid-game, you could see that Bruno sits there and Mount is wandering forward. What it offers, which Erik ten Hag obviously loves, being a guy who previously played at Ajax, previously managed at Ajax and previously managed a number of adaptable Dutch clubs, is it offers them adaptability. I'm not saying, therefore, that Mason Mount is your ideal player. There are a lot of times where he's weak in the air. There are a lot of times where he has, as much as he's defensively done a very good job for teams, there are times where he's kind of been out of games and you're a bit like, how do you get back into it here? When he's not quite been able to solve it because some of his teammates weren't necessarily playing particularly well. But I wouldn't take the last couple of seasons at Chelsea as an indication of the trajectory and therefore ceiling of what Mason Mount is capable of. Mason Mount would be very capable of creating a passing triangle in this area. He'd also be very capable of dropping over here and creating a passing triangle in this area. He's also capable of making a solid midfield area. So there's a lot of things that I'm trying to cover here, but what I'm trying to show is the overall adaptability, again, that Mason Mount offers. Something else that every other team is looking for right now. Tonali will offer something of that to Newcastle United. Arsenal are looking at that with Rice and Kai Havertz and Timber. There's an adaptability and a shift that managers constantly want to be establishing numerical supremacy in these areas. Now, these are fixed positional ideas, and there's much more positional football in Europe than there is maybe in South America and places like that, right? But it's important that these players can, like Arteta said, and it's worth listening to Arteta even if you're a Manchester United fan, like Arteta said, these are very specialised positions. Mason Mount is great at listening at specialised, nuanced instructions and going out there and enacting those specialised, nuanced instructions. He's shown it at Chelsea, he's shown it for England, and he's shown it when he went to Holland as well, and when he's just been under multiple different managers at Chelsea as well. He's shown, I know there was like this, he's, Frank Lampard likes him because he's a bit of a Lamps type player, he's a bit of a teacher's pet, a class, a grade A student. Like, that was a long impression, wasn't it? The point is, he didn't play him just because he thought he was a bit of a nice guy. He played him because he did so much for the team. And defensively, he can cover there, he can cover there. And then you're also getting a leader. This is a guy who was a leader within the Chelsea side. And, people go, well, he didn't really lead because there were other... He was a leader in the sense that he, was close with managers. He was a good voice in the dressing room in the sense that he was, a smart guy that other people would look across to and go, okay, he's doing well. How can I do well also? And then he's also a good guy. There's a lot of people in different squads that say, I really like Mason Mount. I like hanging around with him. I like spending time with him. That's a good thing to have if you're, go back to the start of this, if you're team building, which is what Erik ten Hag is doing right now. And arguably Chelsea are team building, but weirdly, I feel, you know what, there probably was a role within a Pochettino side for Mount. They probably have let a player go that they could have maximised. They offered a silly contract at a silly time, in a time of maximum unsurety and disruption, when they shouldn't have. We'll talk about Chelsea at another point. Mason Mount getting out was not only a decision which reflected on Mount, it also reflects on Chelsea. There is a possibility that people could at this point question some of his professionalism or go, oh, well, this is a guy who wanted out when things got difficult. Yeah, things got difficult not only on the field, but off the field at Chelsea as well. The culture quite drastically changed. Managers were changing. Playing staff were changing. There was so much shift at the club. How can you commit a long-term future as a professional to a platform that you don't know is going to mirror what it is or represent what it is that you want it to represent? A lot of us sort of go, well, blindly, we should just stick around, we should be always faithful to these kind of teams. Sadly, if a player, and this is an indictment of the club, if a player sees that he needs to move on, it's time to do so. It's disappointing, I imagine, as Chelsea fans, because what you're getting is a huge amount of insight into the fact that this guy really wasn't happy at your club. And he'd gone to a direct rival. Over, by the way, Liverpool. Possibly one other Premier League, maybe Manchester United have got him ahead of one other Premier League team, two other Premier League teams, maybe Arsenal, someone like that. Getting in ahead of those guys is key in this. It's A, because they're willing to offer the wages, which maybe worries you if you're a Manchester United fan, because you want players who want to be there, not just for wages. I'd imagine Mason Mount could become that. But also, you want a player who wants to be your team's guy. Alexis Sanchez got out. Other players got out and went to Manchester United. It's happened the opposite way with Casemiro. Casemiro wanted a shift, he went there. He was convinced. Varane wanted a shift, he went there, he was convinced, he's been excellent. Could Mason Mount fall into column A or column B? I'd be interested to know in the comments below what you guys think, what you think he's capable of, how you think he's capable of it, and how Manchester United can shift things around to make Mason Mount the best player he can be. One thing I will predict is I think Mason Mount will score a lot of goals in the Champions League. I think he'll score a lot of goals in the Premier League. I also think he'll assist a lot. I think he'll get a lot of joy off whichever striker it is that comes in. Whether it's Nosserman, I don't think it'll be a Kane. Whether it's a big name like that, right? But either way, remember what Erik ten Hag did with Tadic at Ajax when people thought he was done. Remember what he's done with other players such as Casemiro and Varane. Remember what he's done with the Shaw. Look what he's done with the Martinez that everyone wrote off. You're going to have a new goalkeeper. You get what I'm saying. Manchester United fans, I would be happy if I got Mason Mount. In fact, no matter how much, no matter the wages are almost irrelevant. Premier League wages are ridiculous anyway, but 260 something, almost 300 grand, 260 something I think is what the field that he was looking at. It's not terrible for a Premier League player, and it probably matches what he's worth, especially if you got him at discount. I'd be interested to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below, and I will chat to you guys in a little while. Much love. Bye.